Welcome to Around the Weird. Here's your host, the museum curator of the strange and unusual, Mr. Nothing.
Thank you, mysterious voice, and welcome back to Around the Weird, a booktube channel where I talk about all the unusual and out of the ordinary literature that I found in my travels. Today it is Poetry Thursday, so I once again wanted to talk about some interesting poetry that I have found. This one I've actually been sitting on for well over a month because I found it in September, but I didn't have time to talk about it because of Spooktober, and I wanted to focus on spooky poetry or more gothic flavored poetry. But today's poem is a good one. It's about having children and marital discord of some kind. At least that's how I'm choosing to interpret it. I am referring to Quotations from Charwoman Me by Robin Morgan. For those who don't know, Robin Morgan is an American writer and feminist. She actually got her start as a child actress and starred in a bunch of movies throughout her life. And then she got into writing as well, writing essays and books, anthologies, and collections of poetry, much like the one that I am talking about here today. She was an avowed feminist, of course, so she wrote about feminist ideas and what it was like to be a woman, which I think a little bit of that shows up in the poem that I'm talking about today. She's been well regarded for the 1960s, 1970s poetry, or not poetry, but activism that she did, particularly with being pro-civil rights, anti-war for the war in Vietnam, and working with the likes of like Gloria Steinem and whatnot on women's rights and all of that. Although there is some evidence based on what I've read about her to speculate that she was anti-transgender, like she wasn't very welcoming of transgender women in feminist circles at the time. And she's never really elaborated on it, which is probably good because she'd probably have a lot of stuff to say in the same vein as J.K. Rowling, which is complete garbage and often horseshit, and you don't want to hear from them on matters of transgender identity and whatnot because they're very hateful people, TERFs, if you will. But we don't know too much else about Robin Morgan today because she probably doesn't have a Twitter account and hasn't really been widely publicized in the present day. But her work from much of the mid 1900s on does carry forward, which is always good. And so without further ado, let's talk about this poem. I will read it, do a little bit of analysis, and we will move on from there. Quotations from Charwoman Me. You never asked to be a master, and God knows, if she would only say so, that I never asked to be a slave. Position papers, grocery list, rain down like ticker tape on my long march procession past where you cheer me on, waving from the wistful side of, let's admit it, barricades. You're tired of living without any joy. You think you're going crazy. You need my friendship. You're afraid to demand the right to be afraid. You're trying very hard. I know that, and you can't imagine how I wish it were enough. I need to sleep. I never asked for this. You never asked. Our 25-inch son whimpers in the night and my breast hurt until I wake myself and feed him. He never asked for anything at all. We all just want to be a little happy. Listen, I see an older me, alone, in some room, busy on the telephone, dialing all my terrible truths. This thing has never let me live as we both know I might have. Yet I see this thing can cut me down on some street or podium tomorrow. Or just let me live, alone. Our child looks back and forth from your face into mine and laughs. You worry about us, wondering if something within us has broken. You hold my body as if it were glass that will cut you. I'd stop this if I could. Believe me, my beloved, I'm dying of bitterness. I love your forehead. Did I ever tell you that? So that was Quotations from Charwoman Me. In terms of analysis, there is quite a bit to unpack from this this poem. In terms of narrative, it doesn't really seem like there is a narrative in this poem. The narrator, who I imagine is a woman in this case, given that it's by Robin Morgan, is speaking to another person who they refer to as a master, and just noting how their relationship seems to be in disarray. Through the poem, you see they refer to our 25-inch son, which is a very unusual way to refer to your child. So I have to believe that this poem is about two people who are married or had a son together, and the narrator at least is noting all of these issues in the relationship that are causing a little bit of strain. Possibly having a child causes that strain too. This certainly reads like someone who is going through a bit of a tough time, especially postpartum depression. She says, I need to sleep. I never asked for this. You never asked. Our 25-inch son whimpers in the night and my breast hurt until I wake myself and feed him. Robin Morgan only had one child that we know of. And so this could be very well be about her just talking about the blues of having a child and the postpartum depression that comes with it, the great responsibilities and how it can put strain on any sort of relationship. And it's that's a bit harsh, especially to bury your feelings like this. Because it sounds like this is at a troubling point in a relationship. But, when people have children, that always creates a bit of strain because it's a new and uncertain circumstance, on a new situation of sorts. Robin Morgan also, drops some really harsh bombs in this poem. She says, you never asked to be a master, and God knows, if she would only say so, that I never asked to be a slave. So already starting off at a pretty powerful point, equating herself to be a slave, indicating that she's maybe subordinate in this relationship, that she doesn't have as much power, or it isn't as equal as she would hope for. But later in the poem, she talks about how she's had support from this person in their life, but they're on the wistful side of barricades. So maybe they can't fully participate in what the narrator is doing for some reason or another. It's a bit uncertain there. And then you're trying very hard. I know that, and you can't imagine how I wish it were enough. And that really breaks my heart when I read that, because someone's trying and it's I wish this were enough, but this isn't enough to carry on the relationship. So sort of lamenting how there's something lacking in a relationship for it to truly get to where you want it to be. And then another particularly hard line is he never asked for anything at all. We all just want to be a little happy, indicating that there's a lack of happiness there, because a little happy, they're not even a little happy. They're lacking in there's a deficiency of happiness here. So a very troubled relationship do you see in these lines in the poem. What exactly is going on? It could just be a little trouble, as I mentioned before, at the beginning of a child having a child, and all the struggle that goes on there, or this has been a long time coming. A very difficult relationship, and having a child has only brought these issues to the forefront, and so. It doesn't seem like this relationship is going in a very positive direction. And despite the fact that this significant other is trying to be there for them, it ultimately doesn't seem like that's going to save the relationship. So a really very interesting poem. And then the last thing I'll note is the title, which is Quotations from Charwoman Me. I actually don't know what Charwoman means, so I looked it up, and it's similar to a maid, but where as a live-in maid would stay there in a house on a daily basis. The charwoman traditionally comes in, does some work, and then leaves. And so what I think Robin Morgan might be getting at is that she's that way in the house. Like she comes in, maybe spends time with her child, and then leaves, and she doesn't feel like she's actually a member of the household, which brings another element of sadness and sort of unfortunateness to the poem, in that this woman doesn't feel like she belongs in this house, or doesn't feel like these people belong in this house. And so that was Quotations from Charwoman Me, a very excellent poem, if extremely sad and sort of portraying maybe a doomed relationship of sorts, although maybe there is hope for the child, for the raising the child in this poem. I definitely recommend that you go out and seek it. I'll put a link to it in the description. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Otherwise, comment below if you have something to say about this poem. Otherwise, or don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so that other people can find out about this poem or this author or Poetry Thursday if they don't already know. Also join the Discord if you want to have further conversations about books, movies, poems, whatever you want to talk about. And until then, I wish you the best of luck in your weird and newborn raising travels. Farewell.